Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm doing something that I've never done here on my channel. I'm going to be ranking all of my influencer palettes from my least favorite to my most favorite. Now this is going to be a two-part video because there's so many different influencers out there who have multiple palettes, who have their own brands. It gets really hard to narrow it down. So in today's video, I'm going to do it by category or by influencer. So I'll be ranking all of JSC, Manny, Laura, Jaclyn, James, etc. And then in tomorrow's video, I'll actually be ranking the top palette from each influencer from my least favorite to my top favorite. That way I can be as fair as possible, and because I have 50 something palettes from influencers. So that's a lot to rank in one video. So I figured I'd do it by brand or by influencer. So hopefully that makes sense. But buckle up, grab a snack, grab a drink, because this is going to be a long video. So let's get started. All right, guys, so today is day 27 of our Vlogmas. So to start off the ranking of the influencer, we are going to start off with Mr. Jeffree Star first. This influencer has his own brand, Jeffree Star Cosmetics, and Lord knows he has a shit ton of palettes. Now, I want to start off by saying that I do not own every single thing from JSC. I don't own all his palettes. I'm only going to be ranking the palettes that I currently own. And yeah, that's what I'm gonna do for all the other influencers as well. And then I'm gonna take the top one from this one, battle against Manny, Jaclyn, Kristen, Laura Lee, James, Tati, Nikki, Bretman, Patrick, etc. So let's go ahead and dive into my least favorite from Jeffree Star to my most favorite. All right, so starting off at number 11 for my least favorite from Jeffree Star Cosmetics, we do have the Conspiracy palette. Y'all, this was such a big launch. I got up at 4 a.m. in the morning to go to my Morphe store to get my hands on the entire collection. I bought it. I was so hyped up for it. And then I used it just the one time. I've never touched it since then. I think I touched it one more time when I did a video on makeup products I regret buying. I think that's when I touched it last. But other than that, I've never touched it since then. I don't get the theming on the inside of the palette. I personally do not think the palette is pretty. I do think the palette is rather ugly. I'm not gonna lie. The packaging is super cool. I really do enjoy the packaging. But when you actually look at the shadows on the inside, the color scheme just doesn't flow. It's not cohesive. They're ugly. I have no other way to say it, but this is a really ugly palette. Now, I'm not going to talk bad about Jeffree's formula. Jeffree does have an amazing formula from his mattes to his shimmers, so I'm not going to talk about his formula. I'm just going to strictly talk about the color scheme. I hate it. I think it's ugly. I couldn't make a really good look out of it if I tried. This is a palette I'm never going to go back and reach towards again. The reason why I have kept it is because it does have a collector's value to me. I know a lot of people out there hate Jeffree Star and all his controversy bullshit. I don't pay attention to the drama. However, I spent a lot of money on this collection. It has a lot of value to me because this was the first video that ever hit 94,000 views. It was such a moment for me. When I got that, I was like, oh my God, little old me, 94,000 views. So I will always have a soft spot for this palette. Will I ever touch it again? No. I have seen it though being popped up in the Jeffree Star mystery winter unboxings that people are getting this palette. People are getting the little pig lipsticks. I'm not gonna lie, I am so grateful that I missed out on that launch because I'd be so pissed if I got this shit all over again. I'm like, no, what am I gonna do with it? So yeah, I find this to be the ugliest out of all of JFC palettes that I own, a palette that I would never, ever touch again. So, but it's good for collector's value. Coming in at number 10, we do have the Mini Controversy palette. Now, I currently do not have it here in my hands because I don't know where it is. I think I lost it somewhere. I know it's here in this room. I don't know where it's at. I think last time I saw it was when I did the makeup products I regret buying. I had it in that video and I haven't seen it since. So I'm wondering if subconsciously the universe trashed it for me because they knew I was gonna declutter it. But yeah, again, it's a palette that I'm never gonna touch for, never gonna reach. I love the packaging. I think the packaging is very cool. The inside colors are just ugly and just no, not for me. Absolutely not. Pass that along. Just, it's ugly. In at number 9, we do have the Mini Jawbreaker palette. Now, He put this miniature palette in all of his mystery boxes. I received this 3 times after I had already purchased it in a mystery box. I gave it away. The packaging again is cool, but the color scheme is just definitely not for me. There's nothing wrong with it, and a lot of people out there love purples. I don't know, I just didn't see how this can really make a cohesive palette unless you kind of stick to the purple themes. I don't really think these two go together. It just never drew my attention. I never wanted to buy it, but when we went to the launch, Corey thought it'd be really sweet to buy it for me. He's like, no, you have to have it for your collector's purpose. So he bought it for me, and I didn't have the heart to say, don't waste your money. Like, it's so like, but I was trying to be very sweet, and he's like, do it for your video. He was so excited about it. So I let him buy it, and he knows how I feel about it now, but I gave him back his $30 later on in life. I was like, you take this back, because I am not a fan, but yeah, just nah. Coming in at number 8, we do have the cremated palette. Now, I really do love the outside packaging. I think it's absolutely gorgeous. I know there's a lot of controversy surrounding this palette because it came out in April, right when the pandemic was really hitting us full force, and people thought that Jeffree was very, very insensitive for his launch. I understood both sides of the story, but that wasn't why I put it number 8. I put it number 8 because it is a really pretty palette. I do actually enjoy this palette. I think it's really beautiful. I love the shimmers and the shades. It's just a great cool tone palette, one that I necessarily wouldn't touch that often. I don't necessarily mess around with neutral shades that much, particularly gray shadows. I think this is great for like a Halloween look, or if you're trying to do like really smoky like date night look. That's when this palette's really beneficial. But if you're someone like me who really loves color, it just is a palette that I'm not going to reach for that often. I'm very grateful that I have it. I do think it's gorgeous. It's just out of all his palettes, it just didn't beat other ones that I enjoyed more. So yeah. Coming in at number 7, we do have the Jawbreaker palette. Now this palette is full of color. It is absolutely the opposite of the cremated, which is exactly what he wanted. I really do love color, and this is one of like the first launches that I ever went for Jeffree Star. Was the Jawbreaker collection was like the first launch I ever went for, and that was so exciting for me. I haven't played with this palette as much as I'd like to, but I really do love the pastel colors at the very top. I think it's a very gorgeous palette, great in time for the spring and summer. You can create so many different colorful looks for this, and it's just, I've always found this to be an aesthetically pleasing palette. I've always enjoyed it, so that came in at number 7. Number 6, we do have the Alien palette. Now, this was such a hit last year when this got decommissioned off of Jeffree Star Cosmetics, and he threw it into his winter boxes last year. I never owned the palette until then because I was never physically drawn to the palette. I thought the outside packaging was just, I'm like, this isn't really an easy to store palette. And then when you actually open up the inside, I was like, what kind of color looks can I make with this? Like, what can I do? And then I started seeing some amazing tutorials on this, and I was like, oh my God, they're so pretty. I remember in James Charles did like a gorgeous look with this palette whenever him and Jeffree were like using each other's stuff, and it was just became a very, very aesthetically pleasing palette. I do love a lot of greens. His shimmers are so beautiful. I love the shade Moonrock and UFO. So unbelievably stunning. And I think this definitely became a huge collector's item when people found out that it was no longer going to be sold. People were definitely running to get their hands on it. They were selling this on Poshmark, eBay for like triple the cost of it. And yeah, this is a palette I'm never going to get rid of just because it does have a nice little sentimental value to me. And it's kind of nice having something that like you won't find anymore, you know, like no matter what the type of drama he's ever got himself into, I still cherish memories. I still cherish the collector side because I, you know, at heart am still a hoarder for this stuff, so there's that. All right, coming in at number 5, we do have the Blood Sugar palette. Now this palette has always been sold out on Jeffree Star Cosmetics website. People can never get their hands on enough. Everybody was so obsessed with this palette. It's one of those unique palettes. It came with a little class, one of the first on his line, and I was never really that into it because it is full of reds, and I'm not really a red person, but yeah, I do love red more than anything. I think I just love having a really big red bold lip. I think they're freaking gorgeous, but I was really scared to play with this palette because it's full of reds, and I find reds to be very, very intimidating on the eye because it can stain, it can make you look sickly, it can go wrong in so many different ways. But when I actually started to play with this palette and started creating looks with it, I was like, oh, okay, this palette actually really is nice. It has some beautiful shades to it, beautiful colors, and you can create a lot of different looks with this, and I can see why people became so obsessed with this, and I'm grateful that I have it. This is a palette that I still touch time to time and play around with quite often, so I am very, very grateful that I do have this, and it is a really pretty palette. Coming in at number 4, we do have the Bloodlust palette. Now, first off, the packaging, like this unicarton, this thing is a joke. It is horrible. it breaks apart. The cardboard shit is just really bad. Like, you guys can tell that mine is just breaking apart. But I'm the type of person, I like to keep the palettes in their packaging as long as possible. So besides that, this is such a really cool, luxurious palette. I do love the velvet feel of it. I think it's very, very unique. I love the eye look that I did with this. I thought it was so beautiful. And when you guys actually open it up, I actually really do enjoy the purple themes in here. And I know a lot of people out there really couldn't stand the fact that this is supposed to be an all purple palette and there was not enough purples in here. I personally enjoyed it. I think this blue is absolutely incredible. You can create some really gorgeous looks with it, and I just really always enjoyed how this palette looks, how this feels. It feels really, really luxurious with a nice heavy texture to it, and it's just one that I've always enjoyed from JSC, and I'm really glad that I got my hands on it. Coming in at number 3, we do have the Blue Blood palette. Now, this was the first palette I ever bought from Jeffree Star Cosmetics, so I will always have a very, very soft spot in my heart for this palette. When you open it up, there's just such beautiful color scheme. Like, I loved this palette so much. I really love the looks I created with this palette. I played with this palette so much back in the day. It's such an aesthetically pleasing palette personally for me, and I'm just very, very attached to it. I just love the blues. The shimmers are amazing. The mattes are amazing. You can create such beautiful freaking looks with it. And I just love the little coffin with the little cloud. It's always been something that I've definitely been drawn to. This is the one unit carton that I actually threw away because I was still a novice and not a collector at that time. Number 2, we do have the Jeffree Star x Morphe collaboration. Now, the packaging is nothing to be wowed by, but the inside is just so freaking gorgeous. I love the inside so much. This pressed glitter was absolutely fantastic. I love that pressed glitter so much. I love the greens, the shimmers, the mattes. It may not look like I played with this palette much. I was very, very soft and delicate with it, just because I also have a lot of palettes, but I just think that out of all the ones that he created, this one with Morphe was just so good. I really do enjoy Morphe's formula. I really think that the formula is where it was at. I think their formula has changed since then, but this palette has always been so much fun to play with. I love the green eye look that I created with this, and I don't know. I really do enjoy this palette wholeheartedly. And then last but not least, coming into number 1, my favorite Jeffree Star Cosmetics palette, we do have this Thirsty palette. Again, this was decommissioned on Jeffree Star website, and then they put it in the mystery boxes last year. And then this year, I believe it was during Black Friday, they actually brought the Thirsty palette back for people to purchase. This palette is so freaking gorgeous. I love the shades. You can create such beautiful summer looks with this. It just has a really beautiful, bright aesthetic side to it. The shimmers are beautiful. The mattes are very beautiful. They just pop. They're so full of color, and I just have so much fun playing with this palette. I was always so obsessed with wanting to get my hands on it. I finally got my hands on it, and I don't know, I love it so much. It's surprisingly enough for me because I'm just not really much of a neutral, but I just thought the colors were just so aesthetically pleasing, so bright, and you can create such really fun, beautiful summer vibes with it. It is such an easy packaging, very easy to travel with, and it's just always been one of my favorite from Jeffree Star Cosmetics. So yeah, guys, that's me ranking everything from Jeffree Star Cosmetics from his least to favorite. Now we're moving on to Manny MUA / Lunar Beauty. Manny MUA obviously has his own brand called Lunar Beauty, but he has created multiple palettes with other brands. Now, he did have something with Jeffree Star. He's done something with like other brands out there. I don't have all of his stuff, but I will rank everything that I do have. So coming in at number 6 for my least favorite, we do have the Morphe x Manny MUA Glam palette. Guys, I think this palette is so freaking ugly. I cannot get into this palette. Now, there's some people out there who do love this palette, and I'm so sorry if I offend you. That's definitely not my intention. It's just the packaging is not wowing. It's not pretty. It does not scream Manny MUA at all. And then when you open up the inside, yes, he loves neutral colors, and this is very much a neutral palette. It's very boring to me. It does not tickle my fancy. I do not get turned on by this palette. I get turned off by this palette and go, oh God. I remember I was actually happened to be at the Morphe store when this launched. I saw it in person and I was like, no, never wanted it. The only reason why I have it is because he teamed up with BoxyCharm and this was in a BoxyCharm box. I kept it for collector's purposes, just for myself. But yeah, I do not think this palette is pretty in the slightest. What's hanging off of that? I don't know. It's very boring. It doesn't scream Manny. Like, there's nothing about this that screams Manny, except I know he loves nudes, but no, not pretty in the slightest. Coming in at number 5, we do have Life is a Drag palette. Now, this was Manny MUA's or Lunar Beauty's first palette launch, his first introduction to his brand. And when I first saw this palette or the packaging, I was like, wow, the packaging is so beautiful. And then you saw the inside, I was like, but I thought the packaging was so beautiful. I actually, only reason why I have this palette is because, again, it was introduced to us in a BoxyCharm box. Otherwise, I never would have purchased this palette. Now, the outside is absolutely incredible. I do love the eye look. I do love the holographic shift. I think it's very, very stunning. On the back, we do have the Lunar Beauty Life is a Drag logo. It's just, I guess because I love his more recent stuff, it just doesn't scream at Manny. Again, I think his brand definitely have a huge shift. I think his brand had a huge shift, and I think it pushed in the direction that it's meant to be in now. Before, this just wasn't wowing in the slightest. When you open it up, you have this weird ass design around the mirror. It kind of reminds me of like Laura Lee's like nudie cast pajamas palette, where you're like, what the fuck is going on with like the theming of this? So at the very top, you do see, look, at the very top, you do have your half the palette you do have neutrals, the other half you have colors. I heard good things about this. He created good looks, but it's not pretty. It never has been pretty. I never got the theming of it. I kept it because, again, this is something that I don't have from him, and I wanted it for myself. I did swatch a couple of the shades. They do look really beautiful. It's just, again, it just doesn't scream Manny. Like, it doesn't scream Lunar Beauty to me in the slightest. It's besides the name, like hunty, sickening. You know, I'm surprised it doesn't have "it is what it is," you know, like his saying. If you don't like me, you don't have to fucking watch. Know the drill with that. Like, you know, I love Manny with all my heart. I think he's such an amazing influencer, but this palette just was not it. Was not the tea, was not sickening in my personal opinion. So that's why I did have it here at number 5, because it was hard to place that between it was hard to battle the two together, because I was like, they're both just not attractive to me. All right, coming in at number 4, we do have the Lunar Beauty Greek Goddess collection. Now, oh my God, I think I'm actually wearing the exact same outfit that I wore in that video. I actually reviewed this for my channel so long ago when I first came back to YouTube. I think that video only has like 300 views on it. Thank God, because it's horrible. But I really did enjoy this palette. I'm actually wearing the Aphrodite. Said it right, bitches. I'm actually wearing the Aphrodite liquid lip from this collection. This is my favorite red lip of all time. And he has not brought this bitch back. Like, Manny, I swear to God, I'm gonna beat your ass. Bring this back. Like, it is such a gorgeous red lip. But this palette was the first one that I purchased from Lunar Beauty. I did a whole review on it, and I do love the packaging of it. I think the packaging is absolutely gorgeous. It feels very, very like Versace vibes. It has a very luxurious feel. It feels like I'm made of money when little do they know I'm broke as fuck. You know, like, I think this palette is absolutely gorgeous. Now, when you open the inside, it is definitely a neutral palette, one that I really was obsessed with at the time. But as I gotten more into makeup, I just really, really didn't play with this as often. I do think the shimmers are amazing. This palette just wasn't as wowing as it once was back in the day, and that's completely okay. But overall, I still think this is, you know, overall you can create a really beautiful soft glam look with this. And it was my first palette I ever reviewed from the brand, and I will always have a little special place in my heart for this palette because, you know, it's my first review of his. Coming in at number 3, we do have the Moon Spell palette from Lunar Beauty. Now, first off, I think the packaging is just unbelievably gorgeous. I love this packaging. I love that it is a book of shadows. You pull it out just like you would a book, and then you have it right here. Absolutely stunning. It is styled to be like a book, so when you open it up, you have all the shadows right here and all the names, and like he really included every single witch that he was obsessed with. You have the Sanderson sisters, you have the Charm sisters, you have Hermione in here. Like, it is just a really beautiful palette. I do love the colors. You can make really gorgeous green eye looks with this. You can make really gorgeous purple eye looks with this. This was such a fun video for me to film. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it was very, very hard for me to rank this between his other 2 palettes, but I had to do it. And I love this palette. I love it so much. I think when he released this, his brand really started to grow, and he really kind of became into his own when it came to packaging and color schemes. And if you guys have not seen my last Lunar Beauty video, I actually reviewed our number 2 palette, which is the Eclipse palette, or the Eternal Eclipse palette. Now, in that video, I had stated that Lunar Beauty was completely underrated, and I still stand by that. I think people overlook Lunar Beauty all the time. Not only is his shadows absolutely incredible, the pigment on them is just sickening. It's sickening. And the shimmers have such pigment to it. They look beautiful. They look like they glide on wet. They're stunning. His lip products, I swear to God, you guys are sitting on his lip products. If you guys have not tried his lip glosses or his liquid lip, go out there and try it. I am telling you, it is absolutely fantastic. I cannot stress that enough. I own every single one of his liquid lips and lip glosses, and I will buy duplicates of every single one because of how much I fucking love them. They're so damn good. I can't help it. But I do think that his brand is sat on all the time. Like I think out of all the influencer brands, his is probably up there at my very top of being like one of the best brands out there. So at number 2, we do have the internal clip collection. Now this was very, very, very hard for me to narrow it down because I loved each and every one of single his palettes that I'm ranking right now for different reasons. But first off, the packaging on this, just the outer carton packaging, bitch. And then when you open it up, I can't get over how damn gorgeous that is. That is unbelievably gorgeous to me. It is so cohesive with who he is, who his brand is, and it matches other collections and it matches other products in his collection. It's very, very themed together. I love it so much. Now, when I reviewed this video, Manny MUA actually commented on my video about The Last Airbender, and I had a moment, it made my day. But on the inside, we do have, again, more of a neutral palette. Manny does love his neutrals, and I respect that wholeheartedly. But what made me put this at number 2 is I loved the last row. The blues are just so damn gorgeous, and mixing at the very top with those silver shimmers, guys, I love that look. I created so much. You can create a very, very beautiful neutral eye look, but you can create a very beautiful smoky eye look, a light blue eye look. Like you can create different looks using this palette. So I was like, this has to be up there with my top because it is just so damn gorgeous. So damn gorgeous. I love it so much. And this is a palette that I'm playing with time and time and time again. Oh God, I can't wait to see what 2021 has for him. All right, guys, coming in at number 1, we do have the Strawberry Dreams palette right here. First off, the outer packaging is just so pretty. It is just so freaking pretty. It just reminds me of flying. Now, I have a huge fear of flying. I have talked about that before. I have videos of me crying like a little bitch, which I will one day show you guys, but it just reminds me of being in the clouds during the sunset, and it's just very, very peaceful to me. And I could just stare at this palette all day, stare at the packaging because it's just so gorgeous. And when you open it up, like, is that not like the prettiest packaging you guys have ever seen? It is just so beautiful. I love the feel. I love the texture. It's just such an aesthetically pleasing palette to look at. And then on the inside, bitch. First off, it has a little bit of a scent to it, but like a sweet smelling scent. But then it has so much color. Oh my God. I can never get over this color enough right here. This is Blue Diamond. Guys, let me show you guys this, okay? You cannot beat that shift. You cannot beat that glow. Like you can create so much beautiful looks with this. It has a blue pink undertone to it. So the way that it just shifts and moves, oh my God, it will complement any shade that you create in this palette, any look. It is just an aesthetically pleasing palette. I love the pop of colors. You can do a very soft glam. You could do a romantic glam. You could do a neutral eye look. You can do a pops of color eye look. Like you can create so much of this palette. So it definitely was my number 1 favorite from Lunar Beauty. And oh my God, I love Lunar Beauty so much. That was really hard for me to rank down between my least to my top because at the end of the day, besides his first 2 catastrophes with Morphine, Life is a Drag, his collection as a whole is just so beautiful. I love it so freaking much. So that is everything from Manny MUA. Alrighty, so the next influencer that we're going to rate is the Queen Bee herself here on YouTube, at least to me, Miss Jaclyn Hill. Now, Jaclyn Hill has been around for a very, very long time, and she has got her fair share of controversy and drama. But no matter what, she is absolutely beautiful and can create the most beautiful looks I think I have ever seen here on YouTube. And she's one of the first beauty influencers to create a palette with Morphe, and oh my God, does she just blow that shit up. And she opened the door for so many influencers out there to create collaborations with brands, to work with them, to get affiliation codes. Like she kind of started it all for everybody here on YouTube. So we definitely have to play around with her stuff. So coming in at number 6, we do have the OG Jaclyn Hill palette. Now this is not the first launch of this. I think this is her second launch because on the back it does have all the shades with the shadows back here. I was not really into this palette when it first got launched. I was like, you know, just wasn't for me. It sold out quickly. I didn't have time to get my hands on it. But then I happened to see it around Ulta one day and I was like, oh, I guess I'll finally get my hands on it. But when you open it up, it was supposed to be the most stunning palette. And though I do play with it time and time and time again, it just became one of my least favorite from Jaclyn Hill as a whole. Now, I know there's some controversy surrounding this palette right here, that they had changed up their formula, that it was no longer vegan because it had carmine in it. I don't really know what the true situation is, but I do have the second generation of it, and I don't really play with this palette as much as I used to, even though you can create some really beautiful neutral eye looks. I do like to follow a lot of her tutorials using this palette still, but it's just one that doesn't gravitate my attention the way that it's just one that doesn't hold my attention as much as it used to back in the day, especially since she had other releases after that. This will always hold a special place in my heart because it is the Jaclyn Hill OG palette that she created so hard to work with. I don't have like her other stuff that she created with Morphe long ago, or like Sigma or Becca Cosmetics, anything like that. This is the first one that I own from her, and this will always have a special place in my heart trying to create stuff. And I just think out of all her palettes, this is just my least favorite out of all her palettes. Coming in at number 5, we do have the Bling Boss palette from the Vault collection. Now, again, this had a lot of controversy surrounding this collection because when it first got launched, a lot of people had issues with payoff, with pigmentation, with shadows not blending, with them being so patchy. They did a recall of it, and then 6 weeks later relaunched it again. Not gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole. But I did manage to get my hands on this when it got launched. I actually bought this the day that I met Jaclyn Hill when she went to the Morphe opening here in Tampa, Florida. I actually met her that day. That's when I bought this. And I have played around with the palettes, but out of the Vault collection, this is probably one of my least played with palette. I think just because it's a lot of purples and I don't really touch purples as often as you guys want me to. But you can create some really beautiful, gorgeous looks with this. I know that she has taught me, like on YouTube, how to use this palette in a really, really beneficial way. And I just think out of all of them, out of the Vault, this was like my least favorite for it. So this came in at number 5. Coming in at number 4, we do have Ring the Alarm from the Vault collection. Now, you think that I'd be really into this because it does have some pops of orange to it. But again, it's a very neutral eye palette, one that I wouldn't gravitate to that often. It is really pretty. I have used this because she has utilized, I think, this purple shade a lot in like creating like her fox eye look. She uses palette a lot for it. And yes, Framed and Mugshot and Alert, she's like definitely taught me how to utilize this palette. It's just I don't go into it as often as I do her other palettes. So all right, next for number 3, we do have Dark Magic right here. So this is a really beautiful palette. It has some dark greens and blues. I really do enjoy this green shade right here in Busted. I have created some beautiful looks for it off of camera, especially when I mixed it with the Power Cut shade that's right here. Again, very, very beautiful, but it's a palette that I haven't touched as much as I wish I could. I don't know. I think because I kind of view this as like a Vault collection, like I view it as more like a collector's item as well. But I did put this at number 3 because I do love the blues and the greens in this palette. Coming in at number 2, we do have Armed and Gorgeous. Now, I really do like this palette. I do love like the army green and the golds and the oranges in... Bitch! Okay, so I have to be careful. That just fell out. That has not happened to me before. I really do enjoy this palette a lot. I do love the greens and the golds in this palette. I have been a little weary about it because I don't know if you guys have seen it. There was a girl on TikTok who actually showed that this shade right here, Smooth Criminal, started to develop mold out of the palette. Like it was like black mold developing on it. She had recently just purchased the palette a couple months ago. I had this palette now for 2 years, so I haven't seen any issues with mine. But I did go in and I checked all the stuff. But unfortunately, hers did develop mold. I don't know what Morphe decided to do with it or Jaclyn decided to do with it, but it created a lot of attention here on TikTok. And I was like, oh God, poor Jaclyn, she can't catch a break. And now when I open this up, you know, I just played with this the other day, the damn coin shade fell out, which is really, really easy to fix. It's really easy to fix. All you need is just to have super glue. You can pop that back in and fix it really, really easily. But it's such a beautiful palette. I do love the greens and the golds in this palette. It's one of my favorite color schemes. You guys know that. So I do think this is a really gorgeous palette overall, even though it has a little bit of a defect to it now. All right, coming in at number 1, we do have the Jaclyn Hill Volume 2 palette. Now, I actually went to the launch of this last year with Paige, and This is such a beautiful, beautiful palette. I love the theme of it. I love the purples, the pinks, the oranges, the neutral colors. You can create so much beautiful looks using this palette, and I have played with this palette multiple times. I just think it's a very aesthetically pleasing palette, and I feel like the colors never show up on camera the way they do in person. Like on camera, they look very dulled out, but in person, they're very, very bright and vibrant. They're so beautiful. They're perfect for the fall season. I feel like this is a perfect fall palette, and I just think it's so pretty. Out of all the palettes that Jaclyn created, this has been one of my absolute favorites from her. So I definitely had to put this at the #1 spot because, oh my god, it really is such a stunning palette. It just doesn't translate well into camera, in my personal opinion, but oh my god, it's just so pretty. I love it. Which makes me really excited to see what she has in store for us for 2021 with her own collection. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so now we're moving on to Miss Kristen Dominique. Now, Kristen Dominique was one of the first influencers that I ever reviewed here on my channel. I reviewed the Latte palette. It is my second or third video here on my YouTube channel, and needless to say, it is quite an embarrassment, but I really do love her collection. I may not watch Kristen Dominique as much as I used to, if at all now, but I still do love her products a lot. So she does own the line Dominique Cosmetics. I don't know if she's created any collaborations with any brand, and she had her own stuff beforehand. If she did, I currently don't own any of that stuff. I just own what she has from Dominique Cosmetics. So coming in at #7, we do have her little miniature sweater weather palette. Now, first off, the packaging on this is just so freaking cute. Like, it has a texture to it. Like, it feels like it could be like a sweater. Absolutely gorgeous. I do love the way this looks. I thought it was so pretty. And I love that it came in with like some like little lippies you can buy. However, when you open it up, the pan sizes are just so small. It's such a miniature palette. They're very dulled colors. They're very cool tone colors, and you can create some looks with it, but this is a palette that I only played with twice. I haven't touched since, just because it just isn't that aesthetically pleasing to me color-wise. It's just very cool tone and very muted, and I just feel like it can be a palette that can easily get passed on if you guys are just not a collector like myself. But yeah. Coming in at #6, we do have the Berries palette. Now, first off, the unicorn is just, again, so beautiful. Very, very aesthetically pleasing. And we look at the palette itself, it's a very, very beautiful palette. Now, I actually reviewed this here on my channel long ago when I first came back to YouTube, because my sister bought this for me for Christmas. So it's hard for me to put it towards the bottom, but unfortunately I have to. Because when you look at the palette itself, again, it just isn't that aesthetically pleasing to me. It's very neutral. It's very soft glam. It does have a pop of color, and the shimmers are beautiful. It just didn't scream to me, like, because I'm not really into the maroon red shades, obviously, but it just wasn't one of my favorite palettes from this collection. So that's why it's not at the bottom. But I'm so grateful that I have it, though, and I'm still really appreciative my sister bought it for me, so thank you. Coming in at #5, we do have the Lemonade palette right here. Now, this was the second launch from Dominique Cosmetics, and this launch didn't go as planned. I guess a lot of people are having issues with some of the shades in here, because she does use crushed pearls as part of her shimmer to really create that beautiful aesthetics, to create that beautiful look. And what I really loved about this company, which was just so incredible what she did, when everybody bought this, people were having issues with the pearls not working the way they wanted to. They completely sent everybody a brand new palette. It didn't matter if your palette was broken or not. She sent you a brand new palette. And I was like, damn, that is how a company should run. Now, this palette, it is really beautiful. You can create really beautiful summer vibe looks with this. You can create some really beautiful fall looks with this. The colors that were having issues were strawberry and pink lemonade because of the crushed pearls in here. I haven't played around with the palette all too much, but I do think it's really beautiful. I have touched the shimmers. Her shimmers are just like butter. They feel like butter. They are incredible. It's just the color scheme just wasn't what I liked, what I'm into anymore. Like when I first got it, I was like, oh bitch, I was all over it. But as time wore on, I played with other palettes from her. I was like, just not as my favorite, but it's still really beautiful palette overall. I do love the pink packaging. I just think it's really pretty summer, spring vibe palette for sure. Coming in at #4, we do have the Rustic Glam palette right here. Now, this is actually purchased for me from a subscriber because she saw that I did not have the entire collection and she wanted to complete it, and I cannot thank her enough. But first off, the outside packaging is just unbelievably gorgeous. And when you open it up, I do really like the color shades in here. I think that they're really pretty. However, when I was creating a look for this, when I was doing a YouTube video, I was struggling to create a really cohesive look. I couldn't figure out what went with what and what matched with what. Though I love the shadows individually, I think personally for me, I would have a better time taking different shadows from here and mixing it with her other palettes to create a really beautiful look. I just struggled to create it with this palette personally, but it's still so pretty though. Her shimmers, I'm telling y'all, her shimmers are where it's at. Coming in at number 3, we do have the OG Latte palette. Like I said, this is the first influencer palette I reviewed here on my channel, my third video ever. I really do love this palette. Now, I don't know how well it translates on camera, but this was a beautiful white palette. It has gotten so dirty because it's that type of white that stains, because it's not a like satin white, it's not a glossy white, it's more of a mattified white. And anytime you use like a mattified like white on like a wooden texture, it stains incredibly easily. So though it's really beautiful, it also gets really dirty. Now on the inside, oh my god guys, I can never get over enough at how beautiful this palette is. I usually don't like neutral palettes, but this is the one palette that I go back for time and time again to create a really beautiful neutral eye look. These shimmers right here are just absolutely incredible. I always start off with the shade Hazelnut blended out with caramel. I use pumpkin spice, mocha, and I always use macchiato right here in the center. It is just a really beautiful palette and one that I will always be attached to because it's the first influencer palette I ever bought. I bought it when I was in Maine. So excited for it to go home so I could film with it, and oh my god, I just love it so damn much. I will always have a special place in my heart for the original OG Dominique Cosmetics Latte palette. Coming in at number 2, we do have the Celestial Storm palette. Now, first off, the unicarton is just, oh my god, I just love that shift. It is just so beautiful. When you open it up, like look at the packaging itself, unbelievably gorgeous. Now, I actually created a video with this and Kristen Dominique herself commented on the video. And in that damn video, I freaking said that I didn't watch her that much anymore. And I was like, I have got to stop talking about influencers because every time I do, they freaking watch the video. Now, I love this palette wholeheartedly. The color schemes on it is just so freaking gorgeous. I battled it out. I used one side for one eye, one side for the other, and it was so hard for me to narrow it down for what my favorite color was to what my least favorite was. I love both eye looks I created with it. The shimmers are just so damn gorgeous. She even created a miniature version of this, and they put it in BoxyCharm. Now, I gave that away because I had the full-size version of this, but this is such a beautiful palette. I love the orange side so much. I still play with these colors to this day all the time. Same thing with these purples and blues. It's just a really, really aesthetically pleasing palette. One that I love so much. And I thought she did such a fantastic job with this palette. Oh my god. Oh, I'll never get over how beautiful this palette is. Especially those shimmers. Oh, bitch. Now I could sit here and I could swatch all these shimmers for you guys, but then like this video would be 3 hours long and well, I don't think you guys want to watch me for 3 hours. All right, so coming in at number 1, we do have the Latte 2 palette. Now, this rolled out this summer. This was in honor of the original Latte palette, and what was really good about this is that when she launched this, all the proceeds actually went to donate to a cancer charity because her grandmother had passed away from cancer. I'm really sorry that I don't know exactly what cancer was. I just know that she did donate her proceeds of the launch to support the cancer research in honor of her grandmother, and I thought that was so incredibly sweet that she did that for her grandmother. When you open this up, first off, I love that she made it now like stained with coffee. Like that was just a great vibe. I think because she saw how much a messy the first one got that she decided to do that for this one. So pretty. And on the inside, guys, I can't get over it how beautiful this palette is. These pastel colors, I was so blown away at how much I love them. Clearly, you guys can see that I love the shade Frappe a lot. I use this all the time. You can create really beautiful neutral eye looks, very beautiful soft pastel color looks. This is a great everyday palette. Everyday palette, unbelievably gorgeous. I cannot get over how amazing this palette is. It has been my favorite from her ever since she launched it, and I have used this time and time again out of all her palettes. So I'm really excited to see what she has to hold. I'm really excited to see what Dominique Cosmetics comes out with in the year 2021 because I generally do really enjoy her brand. A lot, actually. Okay, next we have Miss Laura Lee. Now, I know that she created collaborations with like Violet Voss and whatnot, but I do not own any of those palettes. I only own stuff from her brand personally. So coming in at number 3, because she doesn't have that many eye palettes, we do have the Laura Lee Los Angeles Cat Pajama palette. Guys. I have many feelings about this palette. First off, the outer packaging is just so damn ugly. I never understood it. It has flowers all over it. It doesn't scream like cat's pajamas. Like, I think it would have made more sense if the unicarton had like a lot of cats on it because she's so cat obsessed. Like, I get it. It was just so and cohesive with each other. And then when you open it up, it's freaking silver. You're like, what the how does this correlate? It didn't make sense. I know a lot of people ragged on her for her concept design. And then when you open it up, it's ugly. It's just so ugly. Like, look at how tiny that mirror space is because of all the flowers that surround it. And then you do have these shades here themselves. Now, I have used this palette multiple times when I first got it. I played with this long before I ever had a YouTube channel. And I tried to create her looks that she created on the channel. And I couldn't replicate it very, very well. She has a lot of purple shades in here with some neutral colors. She's very much into nudes colors as well. And I don't know. I feel like once I played with this palette a couple of times, I never really reached for it again. I think afterwards I played with Dominique Cosmetics from that point on, and I kind of just stopped playing around with this palette. But yeah, I mean, I love the names. I think the names are definitely Laura Lee. They scream what she says, but it's just the color schemes and the packaging, which is very, very unappealing as a consumer. And I know that a lot of people out there sometimes are like me, and they look at the whole palette as a whole, from packaging to aesthetics to appealing to how the formula works and whatnot. So coming in at number 2, we do actually have the Laura Lee Los Angeles Nudie Patootie palette. Now this is a very beautiful palette. I do love the packaging. It's very soft. It's very cohesive. It's just, it screams Laura Lee because it's very nude. I love the LL. This is when she kind of rebranded and really kind of became into her own. Again, the palette is very, very soft, very nice looking. I really do love the appealing of it. And then when you open up the inside, this palette right here is just a very beautiful neutral palette. Now, I remember when she created this palette, I think it was in time for prom. So I remember her saying something about this being perfect palette for prom. I remember just that always being in my head. Now, I have played around with the shimmers and formula in this palette, but I haven't really picked it up since. It is a very gorgeous neutral palette. You can create a very, very soft everyday looks with this, very neutral glam looks with this, very soft glams with this. It's just not my favorite from her, just because I'm not really the biggest fan of neutral palettes that often, but it's still a really pretty palette overall. Definitely prettier than the cat's pajamas. Coming in at number 1, like I said, I don't really have that many from Laura Lee. We do have the Nudie 2 palette. Now, I just reviewed this on my channel, and little did I know, Laura Lee actually commented on it, saying thank you for review. I'm like, oh my God, you watched it. Like, subscribe to her channel before you leave. Subscribe. I wish she'd still sing that, but she doesn't. But when you open it up, I may not have been a really big neutral fan, but I really loved this palette. I use these 2 shades a lot, and I really played around with the low cut shade right here. It's a very beautiful, beautiful palette. Like, I was blown away at the quality of it. Not only the matte's absolutely incredible, the shimmers are unbelievably gorgeous. They blend so easily, and you can create such beautiful looks with this. You can do a soft glam, you can do a neutral glam, you can do a smoky eye glam, you can do an everyday glam. Like, you have such amazing qualities for this palette. I was really blown away by it, and I just love it so much. And though I'm not a nude bitch, this was turning me into a nude bitch, and I was like, oh my God, Laura, you're gonna make me a whore for nude colors? I don't know. I thought this was so great. I really do love this palette a lot. Now, I do have other palettes from like Patrick Star, Tati, James Charles that I'm not going to rate in this video because I only have 1 from them, and that's going to be saved into part 2's video tomorrow. But I will still do a couple more here. So next person we're going to do is Beauty Kristi. Now, Beauty Kristi never puts her name on anything. I swear to God, I don't think she's ever had a collab besides what came out this year. So she only has 2 palettes, and I do own both of them. So coming in at number 2, we do have the Pure X Beauty Kristi. Now, this was such a fiasco when this launched. I think it took like 10 hours for people to get their hands on this palette. It was such a hassle of a day. It was such a long moment, but I'm so grateful that I love this, that I had this palette. So first off, I do love the packaging. I think the packaging is absolutely gorgeous. I love the fact that they're all hand drawn by her, that represent her for everything that she loves on both sides. I love that it's a 2-sided palette, so you can have a neutral palette right here that you can create everyday looks with, very beautiful, or you can switch it to the other side and create very beautiful, colorful looks. I think it's such an ingenious way to create an eyeshadow palette instead of having it just like one big one. You can just go to either side. You can mix and match. It is just such a fun palette to play with. Such a fun palette. Now, the only thing I have issues with is that they did launch this limited time, and once it was gone, it was gone. They never bothered reaching it back out again, and I really wish they would have. I wish this could have been like a permanent collection for them, but Unfortunately, it wasn't, but I'm very, very grateful that I have this palette. Coming in at number 1 is the ColourPop at Foresight collaboration with Beauty Kristi. First off, the packaging is just freaking everything. If this does not scream Beauty Kristi, I don't know what else does. I love the mushrooms of forest feel. And then when you open it up, God, bitch, this color scheme is just everything. Everything, everything, everything. First off, if you guys have been here on my channel, you guys know how much I love ColourPop with a passion. Their formula is absolutely incredible for the price range. It is just such a fantastic brand who releases way too much stuff at one time. But it's such a fantastic brand. So the color scheme is just unbelievably gorgeous. I love the shades. I love everything about it. This was one of my favorite palettes that ColourPop ever released, and my favorite ColourPop palette from Beauty Kristi. So I definitely had to throw that in here as well. Now, like I said, I do have other influencer palettes to rate. I do have, like I said, James Charles, Patrick Star, Tati, Bailey Siren, Jessica, Stacey Marie, Emma Mitchell, Carly Bible, Jackie Aina, Amarizi. I have all these other influencer brands or influencers to rate their palettes on. However, I only have one of those palettes each. Like, I don't really have anything else that they might have put their name on. So I'm gonna save the rest of those palettes for tomorrow's video, so you guys can see how I'm gonna rank it. Because I'm gonna actually take the top ones from like Jaclyn, Manny, Kristen, Laura, Jeffree, Beauty Kristi, James, Tati, and I'm actually gonna go in order from my least favorite influencer palette to my most favorite influencer palette. I just wanted to do it this way first. I could really narrow it down from the brand, because some influencers like Jeffree Star and Manny MUA, for example, have multiple palettes out there. It was so hard to narrow it down on a huge 50-something list. I'd rather narrow it down on a smaller list and then pick the top one from each influencer and battle it out that way. So hopefully that makes sense for you guys. So I know this is a very, very long video. I thank you guys so much for sitting here with me and grinning and bearing through it. I hope you guys liked this video so far. We are not done ranking all of our influencer palettes. We'll be doing the biggest one tomorrow, so make sure you guys stay tuned to that. But yeah, guys, that is it for today's video, guys. If you guys like this video, please make sure you guys give this video a cheeky thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you guys have not already, because I do post every single day here in the month of Vlogmas. Please make sure you guys head over to my other channels, R for Life, where you guys get to see my cool, wonderful adventures with my amazing fiance, Corey. And as always, guys, I just want to thank you guys for all your love and support. I'll see you guys for part 2 in tomorrow's video. Bye!